Welcome to Computer Tech TV. My name is Rick Arter. In today's video, I will be doing the review of the Thermalright Archon CPU cooler. First off, you're taking a look at my test bench here. This is a custom tech station I built, and I'm just using a CM Stacker motherboard tray on top, and my hardware, as you can see there, with the Archon mounted, similar to what you would have inside of your computer case. And I've also removed most of the fans so you guys can hear exactly how quiet these TY140 140mm fans are. So let's get close up here and I'll give you guys a little sound test, and then I'll show you the idle and load temperatures as well as going over what hardware I'm using, and then tell you guys what my overall opinions of the CPU cooler are. Okay, well, I've got the camera about 14 or 15 inches away from the Archon CPU cooler, and I'm not sure if you can actually hear it, but it's really quiet. It's actually hardly noticeable over me talking right now. And this is actually running full 12 volts off the PWM header there. I have my fan control disabled through the motherboard, and this is actually running at 1300 plus RPM. It's rated at 1300, but it does spike up to about 1350 every once in a while. And let me just get a little bit close up here to give you guys a better sound test here. About 4 inches away. So it's a very quiet fan. I also have another one over here running the same. You can see they're just hardly audible. So now what I'm going to do is I have been having this computer sitting here idling for almost 15 minutes now, and I'm going to show you guys what the idle temps are just sitting in Windows, and then I'm going to run orthos for about an hour on small FFTs, and then I'll show you guys what the load temperatures are here. CPU that I'm running right now is an E4500, which is an older, lower end 775 socket CPU, and it's overclocked to 3.1 gigahertz at 1.425 volts. And the temperatures on this are actually going to be a little higher than what you would see on most chips of this nature, because this is a hot chip to start with. It's always run hot no matter what cooler, no matter how many times I remount the thermal paste, change it out, whatever. It's always just been a hot chip. So, but this cooler really does perform well. So I'll show you guys what the load temps are. But real quick, let me get close up to this cooler, show you guys mounting mechanism here. And if you'd like to see more, check out the unboxing video. I go into more detail with the brackets for each socket. Got your 6 heat pipes here. It's a copper base, copper heat pipes, and it's all nickel plated. You have all your fins here. Got your 140mm fan here. And as you can see, this will give you an idea too of the clearance that the Archon will give. As you can see, I have the RAM as far over as it goes, and there's plenty of room. I could fit a 38mm fan in here if I wanted to. And you can see the fan sitting really low, and still it would clear. So another thing to note too is this is a very tall CPU cooler, so if you have a smaller case, if you're not running like an 800D or something, you know, full tower, then I definitely suggest that you measure it, because as you can see, with the fan as low as it can go, it's about as high as the heat pipe, the tips of the heat pipes are. And this is actually, there's actually a little bit here that, you know, I got another 1/4 of an inch or so before the side panel goes on, so that'll give you an idea. So there you guys go. It's a closer look at the Archon, and this is actually just has one fan. I will be doing a test in the future with a push-pull configuration, as well as testing other fans, and doing a comparison test between this cooler, the Silver Arrow, and the HRO2 with different fan configurations. So stay tuned for that as well. So now Let me switch this over and show you guys what the idle and load temperatures are. On to the temperature test. As you can see, we're currently sitting at 62 degrees Celsius. Our ambient room temperature is 23 degrees Celsius. And our voltage under load is 1.416 volts. I've been running for 33 minutes on orthos here. Small FFTs, priority 10. One thing to note, our idle temperature, if you remember, was 32 degrees Celsius. The highest maximum temperature we have reached so far is 63 degrees Celsius, which, if you remember from the beginning of the video, I said this is a warm chip to start with. And I want to say that this is actually the best cooler that I've ever tested. Out of all the other coolers that I've run, this one has pretty much beat them all. Even my modified Corsair H50 couldn't keep up with this at these temperatures. And the stock cooler running here at idle was 40 degrees as the lowest and 42 or 43 as an average on idle. And the load was, wow, I think it hit 85 degrees Celsius within the first minute and I shut it off. So if that gives you a comparison, that was just a stock 65 nanometer Intel retail cooler. So yes guys, as you can see, this is a very efficient cooler. I'm only running one fan, and if I put the other fan on there in a push-pull configuration, I can tell you the temperatures will probably be 1 degree at least cooler. It's usually about how it runs, 1 or 2 degrees Celsius from another fan. And we're just chugging along here, almost at 35 minutes, 61 degrees Celsius. And so that about wraps it up, guys, for the temperature portion. Do a little pros and cons list here, as well as give you guys my final rating on the cooler. So I had to do a little something different. Pros, basically quality. I mean, this thing is amazing quality. You're not going to find any coolers besides maybe Noxua's that are a little bit higher quality. The mounting system, impeccable mounting system. I mean, it holds the cooler on there, doesn't stress the motherboard at all. It's very easy to install. And they also, like I said, they include the pressure valve adjustment. If you watch my unboxing, you'll see more on that. The pressure valve adjustment is a really sweet thing because not only do you get the pressure of the heatsink mounting bracket itself, but you can add an additional 70 pounds of pressure. So that's always good. But, like I said, do as to your own risk, because if you end up breaking something, you know, it's not going to be on them, it's on you. 140mm fan they include is very quiet. I would recommend this fan to anybody if you're looking for a CPU cooler fan that can accept a 140mm fan that has 120mm mounts. As far as case fans go, it is good, but it's sometimes kind of awkward. Especially if you're trying to mount more than one of them in line. It's almost impossible. If you want to know more about that, check back to my old Cooler Master 692 videos. I had a few of these case fans installed in there. And last but not least, powerful. This CPU cooler is powerful. Like I said, it's one of the most powerful CPU coolers I've ever used. And so I want to give it the props of that. And like I've said in the before as well, I'm going to be doing a comparison with other fans and another comparison with all the coolers together, seeing which is actually the most powerful out of all three of them. But like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the most powerful one that I've ever tested so far, if I can, you know, think back correctly to all my stuff. Moving on down to the cons. The only cons that I really have are, it's a large cooler. It's not so much large like D14 or Silver Arrow large. It's a single tower cooler, so it's more large as far as tall goes. So you have to, or I should say as far as height goes, so you need to make sure that if you have a side panel that has a window, or if you have a smaller case, you have a side panel fan, you need to make sure it's going to clear before you purchase the cooler. Expensive. If you think about how good it is compared to a really low-end water cooling that costs about the same amount, it's really a good bang for the buck. but it's really kind of hard sometimes to push people to buy coolers that are as expensive as a cooler like this is, just because a lot of people who don't overclock really don't need a cooler like this. But if you're a hardcore overclocker, or you basically just have a really insane CPU like a 980X or something like that that you just want to keep as cool as you possibly can under any situations, well, this would definitely be the cooler for you, because it runs great even with just one fan on it. So you can imagine if you put a higher flow fan or even push-pull fans on there, it's going to run even better. And the fan brackets are the only other things that I have a con about. I really don't like the way they mount, because they mount on the outside of the fan, therefore you cannot really run any other fans that are any thicker or any thinner, because the slack and the basically it just won't work right, I don't think. I haven't fully tested this, but I'm pretty sure that you can only fit 25 millimeter to 32 millimeter, I believe, is the stock thickness of the Thermalright case fans. And yeah, so that's my only gripe really, is the fan brackets. I have no problem with the size of it or the price of it, and all the stuff that they include for the AMD and Intel and everything, it's definitely worth it. You get thermal paste, fan isolator strips and stuff like that, as well as fan brackets and the fan. So it's a great deal in my opinion for what it does, and it's one of those coolers that you buy and you use for many generations, because it's really a very powerful cooler. So it's gonna last you quite a while, because a lot of people don't upgrade every 6 months like some of us hardcore people, you know, that overclock and try to have the newest stuff. A lot of people will build a system, buy their parts, and it'll sit there for at least a year, sometimes 2 or 3 years. So this is definitely a cooler that will last you a while, and you won't have to worry about anything. And this probably would even run good passive. So if you're into the passive type of thing, or you're trying to run a home theater type PC and you want a cooler that'll take a quad core, or a Core i5 or Core i7, and run it passively, this would be the cooler for you as well. So I just want to say thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I just wanted to give a big thank you to Thermalright for providing the CPU cooler for me. We can actually take another look at that CPU cooler here real quick. Kind of a mess in here, I apologize guys, kind of hard to get around. And yeah, the guys at Thermalright have been great. The communication is amazing. Anytime I have any kind of questions, they help me out. So I'll put some links down at the bottom in the description box for you guys. You want to check them out. And you guys all have a great day. More videos to come.